first time in NXT history, a PLE aired on the CW, highlighting the best young talent into WWE today with the Great American Bash. This was a crucial night for NXT from the Performance Center in Orlando, including multiple major title matches. Would Tony D'Angelo survive Naraku? Could Kendall Gray achieve her massive potential and capture the Women's Championship from no device? These are the big questions heading into the show, and we start things off with Naraku versus Tony D. Naraku headed outside to grab a chair, but D'Angelo immediately speared him through the stage. The former Evil bears back by targeting the bandaged eye of the champ. He even sent him in eye into the apron with him to the abyss. After the picture-in-picture break, Naraku sent D'Angelo head hard into the barricade. The NXT champ fought his way back with a running suplex and a pair of Germans. Naraku responded with his own German, but D'Angelo rolled through, fired up and hit an elevated spinebuster for the victory. Despite the build and attempted height, this felt finely ordinary when it went down, relying on the silly looking bandaged eye as an obvious target for the former Evil. Hot open to the match, so to a basic beatdown sequence as Naraku took the advantage of D'Angelo's vulnerability, but that didn't build to a dramatic near fall. When the NXT champ fired up and hit his spinebuster, it was almost a shock the match was over. A rush build of Naraku delivering Evil to a fairly standard TV defence. It's a shame NXT wasn't really ready with much more as a threat, but it just kind of didn't feel great, and with all that eye stuff as well. 5 out of 10. As we then moved on to the Women's North American Championship match, Zarya versus Tatum Paxley. Zarya threw Paxley around early in this contest, but the former champ pulled the current champ under the apron, using the opening to repeatedly strike Zarya. Paxley tried to choke out Zarya over the barricade. The champ powered her way free, landing Paxley hard on the floor. The challenger continued to use her environment to her advantage, including a snap suplex, popping up only to take a spear. The team out on the apron, laying in strikes until Paxley reversed an F5 attempt into a sunset flip. After a tug of war for the Women's North American Championship, Pax hit a cemetery drive outside the ring, followed by another ring in the ring for a near fall. The champ tried for a cemetery drive, but Zarya reversed into an F5 attempt. Paxley reversed it into a sunset flip for a near fall. A spear in an F5 couldn't keep Paxley down, but after Zarya stomped Paxley's neck harshly into the mat, Zarya finished her off with another F5. More dramatic than the opener, Zarya and Paxley got the most out of it, and it made it a really physically intense match. While the result was expected, they continued to keep the momentum fast to sell that either one could take it down the stretch. These two some things as anticlimactic struggle where both willing to give a finisher kick out for the drama, delivering some memorable images and shock and awe near the end. Zarya needs to retain. That's likely the end of Paxley in NXT, and she could find herself back to working with Lyra on Raw. The immediate goal in NXT should force Zarya as an unstoppable force, potentially evenly letting her challenge for the women's title while still holding the North American title. These are the times to solidify the top names in NXT, and Zarya should be near the top of that list. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. We then got Shalila Hill versus Tristan Angel. Hill quickly got his Mr. NXT sash back from Angels, who had no answer for the chaotic power and speed of his opponent. During the PIP break, Angels began to turn the tide, throwing Hill into the turnbuckles, using ropes to wear him down. Hill slipped under the ring. When Angels followed, he got a phone call saying the fog is coming, before choking out Angels in a hockey mask. Angels slipped away and tried to throw Hill onto the steel steps. Hill fought it off and ran up the steps for a spear back in the ring. Hill and Angels fought to the second rope, where Hill hit the Whisper of the Beast for the victory. This was the first match to get 2 commercial breaks, and it never felt like much each time. This was solid but forgettable beyond the odd horror sequence under the ring. Hill and Angels had solid chemistry but didn't sell the match this long without any stakes. Clearly Hill's a priority star for NXT, and there's no point delaying the inevitable. He should win the North American title soon. Angel's done solid work in NXT and has a talent to go far, but it's going to need to build up some credibility after losing several times. 5 out of 10 from me. As we then moved on to the women's speed title match, Ren Sinclair versus Ariana Grace. Grace tried to bring the speed early against Sinclair, trying to find a way to wear down the champ, but keep rebounding. Vic Joseph saw the champ without support, while Grace had all of Birthright behind her, but mostly stayed out of the action until the final minute. Dempsey jumped up on the apron, took a forearm shot for his trouble. Grace used distraction for a small package near full. Sinclair responded by spinning Grace and locked in a final wrench for the submission with 15 seconds left on the clock. A fine match for TV, but it never sold itself as a worthy match on this show. Sinclair wrestled circles around Grace, but intentionally saying the challenger was far from ready for the fight the champ. By the time the match started to move, it was over, and Sinclair once again showed she's far beyond needing a women's speed championship, limiting her ring time. Grace and Birthright moved back to the line beyond King's oddly booked men's championship reign, and it's hard to get excited about anything the group is really doing. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. We then got Dean Lennox versus Sugars. He went right after Lennox to start this match, not even removing his jacket until the toss it into Lennox's face. Lennox found a weakness in Sugars, attacking the same back that got powerbombed through the table last month. Sugars then started to fight back, hitting a rude awakening before Griffin and Cutler James arrived ahead of the PIP break. Lennox caught Sugars off the ropes with a spine buster for the first near fall of the match. Sugars fought back with a flurry offense, ending with a flatliner for a near fall of his own. He followed up with a springboard leg drop for another close pin. Lennox responded with a backbreaker on the top rope into a side slam for 2. He tried to end it again unsuccessfully with a strong clothesline. Sugars lost Lennox on a razor's edge set, but managed to hit a reverse frog splash for the W. Right after the ring, Griffin and James attacked, laying out Sugars and finishing the build with a baseball bat swing to the stomach. Another match that felt like it had too much time for what it's trying to accomplish. Lennox spent the final stretch treating every move like the finish, but the crowd wasn't biting it. When Sugars got to the finish, it almost felt anticlimactic since he didn't have an established finisher. Both men were in the business of hitting moves that didn't weave in the story they presented on Tuesday. There was no hesitation in Sugars, nor was Lennox obviously outmatched at any stage. The post-match attack made sense, but made the action feel pointless if it was the goal simply for Darkseid to end standing tall again. It may have been the best simply to keep it short and sweet, allowing Sugars to overrun, and its Darkseid could still get revenge post-match, I suppose. But yeah, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. We then got the North American Championship match between Miles Bourne and Tavian Heights, and they wrestled to clean start until Heights and Bourne accidentally collided headfirst, causing a brief stop as the ref checked on both men. After the check, both men started to work more chippy, grappling and jaw jocking into the PIP break. Heights threw the first punch of the match after the break and questioned if he was going too far, and then Bourne threw her and fight back. They kept ramping up the impact for offense. A Reese German on the floor and a frog splash nearly took the victory. As Heights propped Bourne up on his shoulders, the champ reversed into the Bourne again for the victory. This was unlike any match on the card so far, helped by the grappling experience of both. They were focused entirely on rolling and suplexing. Heights drove the pace and looked like the more impressive competitor. He also continued to say his growing frustration at failing to keep his friend down. With 2 commercials, this verged on longer than it needs to be, but both men sold the emotion of the match well. The biggest disappointment was another tease without resolution. Commentary told that Heights was going winless against Bourne into this contest. They, throughout, Heights questioned if he needed to do more to win, but he never showed that he was willing to do so until he actually got underhanded and remained fair afterwards. This would have been a perfect chance to highlight Heights with a memorable heel turn, especially on a night lacking for newsworthy results. But yeah, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. We then got Lola Vice versus Kendall Gray for the Women's Championship. Gray tried from the start to get hold of Vice and ground her, but Vice used the ropes to keep her footing and hit stories of strong strikes. The challenger attempted to challenge the strikes of Vice with her own body shots, but Vice quickly fought her off. Jordan tried to get involved, but Wwenxt and Clear brawled with her to the back. The distraction allowed Vice to knock Gray off the apron with a spin kick into the break. Gray fought out the break, throwing around Vice until she could lock in the ankle lock on the outside, followed by shades of Gray in the floor. Back in the ring, Gray locked in an ankle lock that Vice reversing to her own. Gray tried into an armbar and Vice again turned that into her own armbar. Vice transitioned into a rear naked choke, which Gray turned into her own choke. The two went to the ropes for a challenger. For the challenger, missed the moonsault and ran into a spin kick for a near fall. Vice caught Gray with a spinning back fist into the ropes. Gray bounced back into a back elbow into a double pin with simultaneous kickouts. Gray managed to duck out another spinning back fist into a corner springboard, shades for Gray for the victory. Unsurprisingly, they lived up to the hype and delivered a match that deserved the main event. The two brawled with the intention of sending us as closely matching up to their legitimate fighting experience. Vice leaned into a streaking progress while Gray relied on grappling. The early focus set out the chance to dominate and gave Gray the explosive countdown after the break, completing with peeling down the straps. The crowd was into the action, but loudest the second half was the support for the challenger as powerful as you can get in the PC. The home stretch was great, especially the memorable double pin and the two perfectly capitalised on that to bring the energy to the finish. While Gray's not been in NXT for long, it feels like she deserves this, and it's a while coming. Vice got her veteran run, but NXT belongs to Gray. She has proven herself in the ring time and time again. Hopefully this will really allow her to have a spotlight shone on her. Vice will rebound, still holding the mixed AEA championships, and it would not be surprising if she's on the main roster sooner rather than later. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. Great stuff. It's long been said NXT's best asset is the women's division, and that was on full display at the Great American Bash. Zarya versus Paxi and Vice Gray saved an otherwise forgettable night that was supposed to be a big NXT show. Beyond the win for Gray in the main event, which is a long time coming, it suffered from a lack of moments. Every other champion retained, and most of the matches kind of felt like an overly long storyteller. Perhaps if NXT lived up to the promise to bring Triple A luchadors for the night rather than just using the setup on Tuesday, the PLE would have flowed better through the 3 hours. Instead, Great American Bash was all hype and little payoff, carried by two of NXT's NXT's best match of the year, while everything else will be forgotten about pretty soon. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. That's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, follow us on our socials, link in the description below for daily wrestling news, meme and content. Subscribe to our other channels on screen right now, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.